Hi, I'm Deb of Debrisware, and I'm gonna have an opportunity at Sapsuckers where you can make up to 3 pinch pots, and then we'll come back and plant some succulents in them. We'll start off with a ball of clay or a block of clay. This is about a pound. I'm gonna cut some kind of random chunks up to, this is about a pound and a half. Start by knocking the corners in so it will become a ball. I seldom actually use the tabletop when I'm making pinch pots because I don't like cleaning the table. I also find that I can feel the shape of it more effectively if I keep one hand outside of the pot, one hand inside of the pot. I can know what I'm doing. So you start by putting that thumb deep into the pot. Actually, I wonder if I could, I'm going to turn around and put my hands in front of it so you can maybe see better. Turn the camera around. Here's my chair. There's my pot. Okay, so I'm gonna get my thumb way in there and start forming the bottom first. You want to do as little shaping of the edge as possible until the very end. Get way in there and start shaping the bottom. You can widen it out a little bit so you maybe can stick your finger in there, and you want to make sure you've got it plenty thin down there. If you get a little crackle like that, you just kind of smear it shut before it gets too out of hand. This clay I've actually reworked. I've used it a few times and re-squished it, so sometimes it gets a little crackly. But I squeeze, let go, turn, squeeze, let go, turn, and I've been doing that around the bottom, still reaching way in. So there's quite a bit of thickness here, but not much down here. And it's getting harder to reach, so it's good I took care of that before it was really hard to reach. I can sometimes just swipe it across there against my palm, shaping. Now I am getting closer to the rim, so you see that rim starts to widen out a little bit. And if I get those crackles again, address them before they get too crackly. And it's okay to have the crackles. They can be fun. They can be, kind of rustic and show that handmade quality. Now you don't want the rim to be razor thin. You want some substance on the rim. The clay that we are using is terracotta, which is a low fire clay, and the clay will be porous. So when you pour water into the pot to water the plant, it won't necessarily need a hole because it will actually absorb right through the body of the clay, right through the walls. So if I'm testing my pot for thickness, I want to feel inside and out and get an even thickness all throughout. And it can be kind of a dumpling shape. You can shape it other ways. You could make your bottom wider or narrower or work on other shapes. Sorry, I'm kind of wiggling around here. The one thing about working on a table, sometimes people, honestly, I like to stand up and not work at the table. But you can, when you're done shaping it, kind of tap it to get a nice flat bottom. But you don't want to form it against the table to get a flat bottom, because what you'll wind up with is a lot of clay in these corners here. And if the clay is uneven in thickness, it has thick spots and thin spots, it will dry unevenly. And when it dries unevenly, it can crack, because when it dries, it actually shrinks quite a bit. When it releases its water, what's left is smaller. So it may actually shrink on one part but not the other, and then when the other part shrinks, it cracks away from the part that was previously shrunken. Also, if it's got a really thick spot, it might not dry up enough at all. So then when it hits the kiln and gets heated up, it makes steam, which blasts it apart. Then also it might not heat evenly. Like this part might get hot more quickly than this part. So you might get additional cracking from uneven heating later in the firing process. So if it survives drying, and if it survives the beginning of the heating process, it still might crack if it's got thick or uneven parts. So this is one that I started earlier, and I'll show you that evenness of the bottom working it in my hands. I can feel that evenness of the bottom and feel that, the bottom is the thinner part first, and then as I work, I can thin this as I form the pot. I can make sure it's all even all throughout. Now this whole thing is kind of thick. It's kind of on the high end of thickness. I would make it much thinner. So that's the plan, is make it much thinner. Now you can make, I'll bring a bunch of balls of clay. You could probably make, I'll have enough planting materials for 3 pots. You probably only want to make 2 or 3 pots, really. So I don't particularly want to cut this one in half and show you the thickness of the walls, because I want to use this one as an example. So I am going to just keep working on it and not cut it. And you'll hopefully understand that it's about this thick all the way throughout, which is like thinner than my finger, about pinky finger thickness or fingernail thickness. You can get a little on the thin side. You do want to leave some rim, because that gives it a little durability. Helps it go through the stresses of firing and drying and having a plant in it getting knocked around if it bumps against things. So you can form your pot. You can also put little legs on the pot. You can put little additional things on the pot. And that is through slipping and scoring and make sure it's kind of thin. You don't want to make a big flat layer sticking on without getting all of the air and water out from in between. And you do need to rough it up so it will stick. I'll come back for scoring and slipping. Okay, I've got a couple little wads of clay. I'm going to roll it this way and that, and then flatten it. I decided I'm going to make an owl out of this one. Also, the clay will sometimes stick to the table, so I try to avoid that. But this clay is rather dry, so it doesn't want to stick too much. If it does kind of stick, it's easier to slide it than peel it up. If you try to peel it up, sometimes it stays stuck, but if you twist it or slide it, it doesn't have a lot of shear strength, so it will just break loose. Okay, I also am short of my scratching tool is inside. Anything can scratch it. You just need to make it rough. So I'm using this pencil lead stuck out a little bit to make a nice rough surface. This drastically expands how much surface area there is to grab a hold of the other part. And so I want to make sure there's also a lot of surface area here. I'm going to trace where I want this to be. Just give myself a little reference line. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Really, really, really get it rough. And then a little bit of vinegar. Oh, I brought a brush. Just vinegar. We're not going to do mud or any anything like that. We're just going to do vinegar on both parts. And you press it until, let's see if you can see that, until it squishes outward. That way you know you have squished out all of the extra water and air bubbles. I saw a little air bubble come there. And then you can kind of brush the edges. You don't want your brush too wet to refine your edges a little bit. Ta-da! I have owl eyes. I need a little owl beak. Got this little flat piece here from before, so I'm just going to cut a little raindrop shape out of it. Got a little peak. So I think I'll bring like some marker caps so you can do impressions for eyes. It's kind of fun to do a wider circle for eyes, and you can do like pressing the end of the paintbrush to make some lines around the eyes. If you choose to do an owl, I'm awfully fond of the little owl shapes. Some people prefer to put it up on legs. It kind of, if you want to set it on a tabletop, you might want to put it up on legs because, as I said, the water will soak through the surface of the pottery. So the legs, you want to kind of echo the thickness of your pot. Make tripods usually are more balanced, so three little balls about the same size. I like to say about like a pretty delicious juicy grape rather than a little puny grape. And again, I'll score and slip to put them on the bottom. I might do like the two of the triangle right underneath the beak so it sort of resembles feet, and then the third one behind. The positioning will look a little bit more sensible. Just placing them for a second till I can put a, I want to put my hand inside behind it to kind of press against. Whoops. It kind of leans a little. I think I'll make that shorter leg a little longer by squeezing it a little. There's my little owl. Then we're gonna take a little break. Enjoy, after we make our 3 shapes, we'll enjoy a beverage or two while we let them firm up, and we will glaze them today.